Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 6, Text 35. My glasses are somewhere. Somewhere. But, all right. We did. Must be my brother sharing my glasses with me. My elder brother. Ah, yes. So we're on text number 35. Yamadibe Jagapanta. Yamadibe Jagapata. Karma loba hatomahu. Karma loba hatomahu. Mukunda sevaya yadvat. Mukunda sevaya yadvat. Tatamadhana samyati. Tatamadhana samyati. Yamadibe yogapata. Karma loba hatomahu. Mukunda sevaya yadvat. Tatatmadama samyati. Yamadibe yogapata. Karma loba hatomahu. Mukunda sevaya yadvat. Tatatmadana samyati. Kunda sevaya yadvat. Tatmadana samyati. Ladies. Yamadive yoga patae. Karma loba hatomahu. Mukunda sevaya yadvat. Tatamadana samyati. One more. Yamadive yogapatae. Kama loba hatomahu. Mukunda sevaya yadvat. Tatmadana samyati. Please repeat responsively. Yama adibi. By the process of practicing self-restraint. Yogapata. By the system of yoga. Mystic bodily power to attain the godly stage. Karma. Desires for sense gratification. Lobha. Lust for satisfaction of the senses. Hetaha. Curbed. Mahu. always. Mukunda, the personality of Godhead. Sevaya, by the service of. Yadvat, as it is. Tata, like that. Atma, the soul. Adha, for all practical purposes. Na, does not. Samyati, be satisfied. Translation. It is true that by practicing restraint of the senses, by the yoga system, one can get relief from the disturbances of desire and lust. But this is not sufficient to give satisfaction to the soul, for this satisfaction is derived from devotional service to the personality of Godhead. We'll read the purport by Srila Prabhupada. Yoga aims at controlling the senses by practice of the mystic process of bodily exercise in sitting, thinking, feeling, willing, concentrating, meditating, and at last being merged into transcendence. One can control the senses. The senses are considered like venomous serpents, and the yoga system is just to control them. On the other hand, Narad Muni recommends another method for controlling the senses in the transcendental loving service of Mukunda, the personality of Godhead. By his experience, he says that devotional service to the Lord is more efficient and practical than a system of artificially controlling the senses. In the service of the Lord, Mukunda, the senses are transcendently engaged. Thus, there is no chance of their being engaged in sense gratification. The senses want some engagement. To check them artificially is no check at all, because as soon as there is some opportunity for enjoyment, the serpent-like senses will certainly take advantage of it. There are many such instances in history, just like Vishwamitra Muni's falling a victim to the beauty of Menaka. But Thakur Haridas was allured at midnight by the well-dressed Maya, and still she could not induce that great devotee into her trap. The whole idea is that without devotional service of the Lord, neither the yoga system nor dry philosophical speculation can ever become successful. Pure devotional service of the Lord without being tinged with fruitive work, mystic yoga, or speculative philosophy is the foremost procedure to attain self-realization. Such pure devotional service is transcendental in nature, and the systems of yoga and gyan are subordinate to such a process. When the transcendental devotional service is mixed with a subordinate process, it is no longer transcendental but is called mixed devotional service. Srila Vyasadeva, the author of Srimad Bhagavatam, will gradually develop all these different systems of transcendental realization in the text. Srila Prabhupada ki. It is true, this is the verse again, it is true that by practicing restraint of the senses, by the yoga system, one can get relief from the disturbances of desire and lust. But this is not sufficient to give satisfaction to the soul, for this satisfaction is derived from devotional service to the personality of Godhead. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Ajnana Mirandasya Ananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Mulitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripashandubhyevacha Patitanam Bhavanabhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So I have to beg for some grains of dust. I asked Jananivas Prabhu how to do some festivals in New Zealand. And he said, you can do that by... he showed me a verse from the Bhagavatam. I don't know the Sanskrit. He talked about the verse says that the pure devotee of the Lord, by expounding the glories of Krishna, it's like distributing saffron dust particles in the atmosphere. And if any one of those saffron dust particles touches a living entity in this world, the potency of the pure devotee's words coming from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the potency of that saffron dust, it is the power, the Shakti, the power to actually transform a conditioned soul to reawaken their original consciousness. Fire is present in all wood. Fire is there in wood. We can't see it, it's standing out in the sun. And so this is drinking the sun, all the trees. So fire is present inside. So when we reawaken our Krishna consciousness, then the fire will come out. We already have a relationship with Krishna. We have an established relationship with Krishna. By coming into contact with the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, then we reawaken that, just the saffron dust particles. For me, I remember just looking into the eyes of the devotees. I'd never seen anything like that before. Like an ocean. And even different stages of devotion, you could see some purity, the eyes, the index of the heart and the mind. So just by seeing a devotee, just by coming into contact, what to speak of hearing, just by coming into contact of a Vaishnava, isn't it? So rare. The devotees of the Lord are so rare. So it was a nice, Jananivasi gave a nice instruction. So I was lucky, I took his saffron dust and come and try and, of course I'm far from any purity, but whatever he gave, I try and carry and sprinkle. That's what we should do as devotees, isn't it? This is the Ordaya principle of Srimati Radharani. We have Madhurya, her principle of Aishvarya is there, or in reverence, wonderful, understanding the power and the strength and the might of God. Usually that is also mixed with the fear principle, to understand God through fear or awe, the greatness. Then we have the sweetness, Madhurya, this is Vrindavan, Dwakar, Aishvarya, Vrindavan, Madhurya, sweet pastimes, Radha Krishna, Vraj. Then Mayapur goes a step further, isn't it? Mayapur takes us a step further to Ordaya. Ordaya means the magnanimity. The sweetness is there, sweetness. But then what to do with the sweetness? We may in this life attain some sweetness from the association of Vaishnava. Then what are we going to do with that? If you really want to get on the plane, if you really want to get the ticket, if you want to go to Goloka Vrindavan, then you have to start to share the sweetness. This is what Gauranga is showing us. Previous life he accrued a debt, big debt, debt to the gopis. He left Vrindavan, they gave up their families, they gave up their dharma, they gave up their Sri Dharma, they gave up their Lokik Dharma, village Dharma, they gave up their family Dharma, they gave up and then he went away from that place. Big debt he accrued. Made Radharani cry for 100 years. 100 years. She was cursed the separation. He went to Dwarka. Then she said, okay, you come and cry next life. So Gauranga comes, they're crying God. He's giving, take. So these great souls are discussing what it is we're to give, isn't it? Narad Muni has personal experience. He says, I have experienced. Well, we know something about the life of Narad Muni, what little I can remember. Of course, he's one of the 5 Panchatattvas. When you're approaching Panchatattva, then we first approach is described, the processes we go through. Srivas Thakur. Srivas Thakur is a manifestation of Narad Muni. Everybody knows Narad Muni is famous. Well, everyone's in the Vaishnavas. But to catch up that Srivas Thakur was Narad Muni, he came in Gauranga's pastime. The Harinam started at his house. Then from there we go across to Advaita Acharya, Vishnu Tattva. So we Jiva Tattva, Srivas Thakur, then to Vishnu Tattva. Interesting. Then he's also described to be a manifestation of Shiva and Vishnu, something combined. Sometimes you hear it's described Vishnu, sometimes Advaita Acharya. This is in Panchatattva in Mayapur. Then from there we may get Guru Tattva, also Vishnu Tattva, coming down in the form of Lord Nityananda. Nitai. We can't go to Gaur, we can't go to Gauranga without Nitai. What does that mean? Nitai is a manifestation of Balaram. Balaram is carrying a plough and a club. We have to practice sadhana bhakti. The plough means tilling the field. Sadhana bhakti. Chanting our rounds, association with devotees, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, worshipping the deity. Pancha Anga Bhakti, isn't it? Living in a holy place, chanting the holy name. What did I miss? 1. 5 different limbs of bhakti. If we practice them like sadhana practice, then the plough of Balaram is working on us. Guru Tattva. Guru is teaching this. Then the club. Guru also, plough is there, but club is also there. Now, Guru can be heavy, more soft than a rose, more heavy than a thunderbolt. Sometimes we're like the chatak bird, He only drinks from the moonbeams. He only drinks from the sky. He won't touch water that touches the ground. So we may be looking for mercy of Guru, like that chatak bird, looking for the rain to drop. He won't drink from the ground. I've been trying to find that bird in India. Quite difficult to know. Sometimes he's crying for mercy like that, and he gets the thunderbolt from the from the monsoon cloud. He gets. Sometimes Guru Tattva can be heavy, isn't it? The club is there. 2 things. So from Nityananda, then we get the mercy of Gadadha Pandit. Gadadha Pandit means Radha, Gadadha Radha. Some say Bhaktivinoda Thakur worshipped Gaur Gadadha. One can get some understanding of Srimati Radharani. And then one gets then by getting the mercy of Srimati Radharani, only by getting the mercy of Srimati Radharani can we go to Krishna. We can't get Krishna unless we get the mercy of Shri. And what is Radharani? She's the personification of Madhurya and Urdaya. She's the personification of sweetness and magnanimity. And out of the 2, her magnanimity is the most glorious. Of course, in Vrindavan, everything is there. In Dwarka, everything is there. And in Mayapur, everything is there. But sometimes covered. Principally in Mayapur or Daya, principally in Vrindavan, Madhurya and Aishvarya in Dwarka. These 3 tirthas are very important to us. These 3 holy places, isn't it? And of course Jagannath Puri, which is a mixture of them all. The most merciful form of the Lord is Lord Jagannath. At Kurukshetra, they all came for Jagannath. They all came. The parents were there, looking from the side of paternal love. The trees were there, the birds were there, passive love towards Krishna. The cowherd boys were there, friends were there, the gopas, the parental ras, the friendly ras, the conjugal ras, Swakiya was there, all the married queens were there, 16,108 queens came at Kurukshetra when there was an eclipse. And also, gopis came. For the first time, Radha saw Krishna in Kurukshetra. So Jagannath, he's the most merciful. He's receiving love. So that Kurukshetra is the place where this Puri pastimes takes place. And we started talking about Narad Muni or Srivas Thakur. He said from some experience, isn't it? So what was his experience? We hear from Srila Prabhupada in his Bhagavatam that at one time he was like, had a voice like a Gandharva. In fact, he was chanting, going around the universe. He was cursed by Daksha. He was traveling around, his feet wouldn't touch the ground. Some of us has a similar curse. My feet touch the ground, but I can't stop moving. He can't stop moving because it was a curse. So now that he's traveling, one time he flew over one city and he saw in the city there was all crippled people, bent up and bones were twisted and knotted. And he said, why? What happened to you people? And they said, there's this transcendental personality, this sage, he's going around and he's singing different ragas, but he's singing the wrong raga at the wrong time. He doesn't know the correct tunes to sing at different times of the day. This is in a previous level, previous time. So that they were they said. He said, "Who are you?" He said, "We're the personification of ragas." So then Narad Muni, wonder who they're talking about. Then he started to realize they were talking about him. So then he went to Sarasvati and he prayed and he worshipped Sarasvati, the goddess of music and learning and arts. And she taught him all the different ragas. She taught him all different tunes. She taught him all different meters and rhythms to play. So then he was such a beautiful singer, Narad Muni. And whenever there's a great opulence like wealth, or beauty or singing voice, some Shakti is there, then the feminine energy becomes attracted. So some females were attracted to him and he became a little bit distracted, even though he was supposed to be singing in a religious way. He became a little bit distracted and he was caught out, and was it a curse that took place that he would take birth in the family of a maidservant? So he took his birth in the family of a maidservant, and considered like a lower class birth. But at the same time, he got the great fortune of getting the association of the Vaishnav Thakurs. He took association when the Chaturmas season, when the sages would stay in one place and hear. Then Narad Muni, he was very fortunate as a small boy. He got their association. He not only got their association, he heard Bhagavatam. He heard principally Chatusloki Bhagavatam. He heard whole Bhagavatam from them while they was speaking in his house. His mother was taking care, he was serving, and he took the remnants. He took their remnants. Taking the remnants, when you first take off somebody else's plate, if you're a materialist, isn't it? They give you a plate of somebody, they say, you take here. Or if you meet a new devotee and they've just started coming along and the guru's plate is there and you offer them something off the plate, they go, oh. To take the remnants of the Vaishnava, that means to take the humble position. Take the humble position. Not only that, if it's touched the lips, if it's gone inside the mouth, got the saliva. That's the difference between prasad and vegetarian food. Krishna mixes his saliva with the foodstuffs. People say, what is this? Well, we tried cooking that, but it doesn't taste like that. What is that? What is it that attracts us to Krishna Prasad? It's the mixture of Krishna's saliva. So if something goes in the pure devotee's mouth and then comes out and you catch that, well, if you tell somebody about that, they really can't handle that, isn't it? Even for us, that's difficult. But understand the importance of the devotee, understanding the mercy of Lord Jagannath. Even that prasadam touches the ground, even if it's been there for days, even if it's dried up, if you get a grain, a morsel of that prasadam, this is the mercy of Jagannath. Gauranga comes to give the holy name, and Lord Jagannath comes to distribute prasadam. And that's his Krishna paying back the debt in the form of prasadam, and Krishna paying back the debt to the Brajabasis in the form of the holy name. So Narad Muni, he got the mercy by taking the remnants of the Vaishnavas that came. Then, of course, the story goes on. He goes to the forest. Very interesting detail is actually when his mother died of a snake bite. You may know his mother died of a snake bite. When she died of a snake bite, he was very intelligent already. Of course, he was Narad Muni. So he was one of the Mahajans, one of the 12 principal teachers we have. So he actually dragged his mother's body inside the cottage, because it was a straw cottage, and he set it on fire. As a small boy, he dragged the body inside, he set it on fire. He did that because he knew if he woke up in the morning and his mother was there and the villagers came and saw him as a small child, they would think, oh, he's just a young boy. What would we do if we found someone? We'd take him in. He thought, no, I want to cut loose from this family attachment. I want to become free. So he was already a transcendentalist. Some remembrance. We may get some remembrance also if we get the mercy of some previous life. So he dragged his mother, he burned the body inside the fire. Then when the villagers woke up, he was gone, out of there. He had already started traveling through the land and cities and agricultural areas, then into the forest. Then he meditated, and of course he got the mercy. So that's the story that comes from the Bhagavatam. Then there's another story with Narad Muni where he, because he learned to sing so nicely, then at one time Lord Brahma asked him to speak at Pushkar. Lord Brahma, that's his place, his town, only place where you can see the deity of Lord Brahma, apart from here. So at that place he was asked to sing. His father said, we know Narad, you sing, you can sing at the yagya. So he was able to sing so beautifully. So beautiful was his singing that all the sages that were sitting in assembly, including Lord Shiva, his father Lord Brahma, all the rishis, Sapta rishis were there, Vishvamitra, Vishvakama, they were all there, come to the sacrifice by Lord Brahma. Narad Muni was singing so beautifully that everybody went into bhav. They went into bhav. That means they went into so much love, so much intensity was his singing in the right mood, then they went into love of God. And he was the first one to go into that. They were starting to go into trance, and then all of a sudden the singing stopped. Narad Muni, he blacked out. He was in ecstasy. How intense was that bhajan? When we sing, we're singing for some glory, or singing for, I don't even know what the words are sometimes to what was Tulsi prayers, Sing because we know, but he's fully realized. So when he sang in such a beautiful mood, then he lost the plot. He went into Astasattvic Bhav. And then the sages, they woke up and they thought, oh, Narad, you were feeding us such beautiful Braja Kahani, stories about Vrindavan, stories. We should be eager to hear the Katha of Vrindavan. So he was giving them in the form of song, singing. And all of a sudden it stopped. And so they looked at him, they opened their eyes and they thought, he's stopped. And they cursed him. Okay, Narad, you can get married to 50 apsaras. 50 apsara girls, you could get married to 50 apsaras, because they misunderstood that he stopped singing. And you get married and you have 10 sons by each. So Narad Muni had to go through having family life. Family life, quite an intense thing, isn't it? I mean, we may catch one girl from this world, or she may catch us. We may have a few children. How extremely valuable are the lessons we learn there. Too hot to eat, too sweet to resist. The pain causes so much separation from Krishna that it's very purifying to the heart. After 25 years, 30 years of grihastha life, then the pain that's caused the pain and the pleasure, we should be willing to come out the other side and be free of that. We can't go to Krishna, unless we leave behind the filial relationships of this world. Not possible. Wife can give us dharma, artha, kama, moksha, can help in those. But prem, for prem, you won't get prem from the wife. Prem means we have to put down the purusha bhava, put down the controlling, materialistic, what do you say? Controlling, what's the term for that? The enjoying spirit. We cannot go to Krishna if we have an independent purusha bhava, the purusha bhava. There's only one purusha, and that's Krishna. We're all his subordinates. We're all prakriti. And that reawakening of being a devotee, it awakens the prakriti nature inside, the feminine nature, the servant's nature. The enjoyed, we're to be enjoyed. But we're born in this world thinking we're the enjoyer. It's a heavy consciousness. Our parents, right from the time of birth, even though birth's not so enjoyable, but still we start to get worshipped by the family, isn't it? So to become free of the purusha bhava, we can't hear Krishna's flute. You cannot go to Goloka and Vrindavan with a masculine mentality or a purusha mentality. That means male and female. Female also have a purusha mentality. We just think, it's the man, yeah. Females also looking to enjoy, naturally. Perhaps men also. So we're all purush. We're trying to enjoy. So to hear Krishna's flute, if you want to hear, the gopis heard the Krishna's flute. To hear Krishna's flute, one has to be free of the enjoying spirit. So Narad Muni, when he went through his family life, then he had experience. He had some experience. We may experience karma, we may experience yoga or jnana, all these different levels, even in our household life. But until we come to the platform of bhakti and develop a service relationship for Krishna, and Krishna begins to reciprocate with us, and it reawakens the fire in our heart for the fire of separation, and realize what a foolish mistake we made by coming to this material world. It reawakens our separation from Krishna. And that burning vipralam, that separation in the heart, that is what purifies our heart. By feeling how far I am from Krishna, how distant I am, how impure I am, and coming into the association of Vaishnavas, it does that for us, isn't it? You see, so many people worshipping Krishna, so many cooks, so many wonderful kirtaniyas, so many just simple, humble devotees cleaning the toilets, doing all different services. Then by being in that association, it purifies the heart. So Narad Muni, he had some experience of household life. 50 apsaras. And then Vyasadeva himself, this is the instruction that he's being given, that Vyasadeva was despondent, isn't it? He was despondent, even though he had transcribed all the Vedic literatures, all the different Puranas, all the different levels of knowledge, right up to the Srimad Bhagavatam, but hadn't given Srimad Bhagavatam, and of course hadn't given Srimad Bhagavatam fully in the form of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the most confidential pastimes of Krishna. Then he was despondent. Even Incarnation himself, he was despondent. And he's showing us, even his incarnation of Krishna, he took a guru, he took a teacher. Who was his teacher? Narad Muni. So Narad Muni even is described, of course, not ordinary Jiva Tattva, but in Pancha Tattva he's described to be the Jiva Tattva, but he's a part of Pancha Tattva, 5 different aspects of Godhead. So, but Vyasadeva took a teacher. Well, who was Vyasadeva? They say he's still there now. We went looking sometime recently. We found him in a cave, Vyasadeva's cave in the Himalayas. And there I was with some book distributors, and one of them started talking, and he just started to almost go into this sweet discussion with Vyasadeva. It was a murti form there. Beautiful. Someone had put a murti in Vyasadeva's cave. And the devotee was saying, now Vyasadeva, he was speaking to him now we've translated your books into 80 different languages by the grace of Srila Prabhupada. And we're starting to, 80 different languages, Vyasadeva's books being translated. So he was up there and he was experiencing this. Then Narad Muni, he finds him in a despondent state, and he says, the reason you're not getting the juice, the reason you're suffering, the reason you're feeling despondent is you haven't transcribed the essence, the cream. You get a bucket of milk. You get a bucket of milk, then on the top of the milk sits the cream. Right? You haven't given the cream. The cream of the Vedic, the Srimad Bhagavatam. And then he actually went down, I think, into Vrindavan to get the mood, the correct mood to actually speak. He spoke it actually, and Ganapati wrote that down, isn't it? Even though Vyasadeva said, Ganesh said, don't stop speaking, we can't, just like when he was singing Narad Muni, don't stop, Ganesh said, don't stop speaking, And so even Vyasadeva, how could he even do some ablutions if he couldn't stop speaking, So he said, I'll only speak as much as you have to realize what you're writing. So he slowed him down a bit. You have to realize what I'm writing. So it's one thing to hear, and it's another thing to realize, isn't it? One thing to hear something, even repeat it like a parrot, but to actually realize it. So Narad Muni was realized, Srila Vyasadeva was realized by the grace of his teacher. So and we're hearing here about how we won't get the taste until we experience giving up our mind, body and words in the process of bhakti yoga. These other yogas are stepping stones, karma yoga, material enjoyment like that. Yoga, the process of physical, controlling the body, and even up to pranayam, and then up to samadhi, and then not only samadhi, going into jnana yoga. Jnana yoga means understanding all about Krishna through the process of knowledge, including speculative, all the different processes of knowledge is there. But you still feel despondent. So when we come into the association of the devotees of the Lord, when we come and we get service right from the beginning, we get service, and you come along to ISKCON, Prabhu, could you wash some pots for us today? Right away you get service. Topmost level. You get given the topmost thing. What a grace Prabhupada gave. You get given to wash the pots in Krishna's temple, or sweep the floor. New devotee come to the Sunday feast. The temples are always struggling to get the cleaning done, different things in Kali Yuga we can't manage so easily. So they say, oh, Bhakta, can you sweep the floor? So immediately, he's already jumped above, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga. He's already on the Bhakti Yoga. What are you doing? Bhakti Yoga, sweeping the floor, cutting the vegetables, cleaning the toilet. You're doing Bhakti. This is Bhakti Yoga, very transcendental. And it's inexplicable. Do you remember? And still, are we getting a taste for Bhakti Yoga? Krishna reciprocates so much. To give, the Christian saying, it's greater to give than what it is to receive. I'm still learning it, but if you start giving and Krishna sees you giving, then he fills you with so much. If it's money, you start giving your money in charity. You just try a little experiment, not that we do it in a fruitive way. By giving dhan, by giving charity, grihastas, we should all give in charity. You'll see how wealthy you become if you start giving in charity. Just try. You think I have nothing? Well, okay, give half. Of course, that may not be practical, we say in this age, but give as much as you can and Krishna will reciprocate. If it's knowledge, well, if you're Brahminical and you have some, this is the beauty of what Prabhupada established, you have some knowledge and you share it, if you're able to open your heart and share it, whatever small amount of knowledge that will be, it's the greatest banking with Krishna. Give that knowledge to somebody and Krishna will fill your heart with knowledge. We already know He's present in the heart. He's there. Antajami Krishna. He's the closest person to us is Krishna. He's already there, so He's witnessing. So if you give, He thinks, this person's giving, let me give him some more to give. If you go to Kishore's house and Rupa's house, all of us, some people are saying, they don't have much money. Come and have a look at the pots he's cooking out of. He's cooking out of pots this big. And you go and have a look at the boga. We may have a little bag of rice, or Jambavati must have this experience, isn't it? We have a little bag and we think, but have a look at those that are giving prasad. Have you ever had been short of something to eat in Dunedin, Jambavati? Janava. Isn't it? So, like that, when we give, it's described a Brahman's like a crackpot if he has. That's where the term comes from, a crackpot. If you have knowledge and you don't give it, if you're miserly, if you're not a Brahmana, if you're a Kripana, miserly by nature, then the pot will crack and it will all leak out. And you go to open your mouth about Krishna, you won't even remember His name. Even though you may be so knowledgeable. But if you give out, then the pot stays full. It means it's still a container, and Krishna fills the heart, He fills the soul, He fills the pocket. When we give or dire in the mood of Srimati Radharani in Mayapur, then we see our movement becomes very opulent with knowledge and with even the material aspect is there. How was the time? So I'll leave it there. Sorry, we probably didn't speak on the verse very much. Something. Any questions? Hare Krishna.
You were speaking about family life and Narada Muni came to the family life and responsibilities. And I experienced that how be Krishna conscious, not baby conscious when the baby is away, and keep your heart with Krishna, not with thinking, how he is there and this. How is it?
Well, I think Prabhupada was asked by one temple president, I'll not remember, that how do I think about Krishna? I'm always thinking about business affairs in the temple and managing the temple. And Prabhupada gave the essence that is Krishna. We shouldn't see our family as something separate than Krishna. You bring the children into the womb to deliver them to Krishna. So if you don't do that service, you're neglecting that's Krishna consciousness. In that particular time, place and circumstance, that is your service to Krishna. It's not separate. Just to take care of that baby perfectly. Make sure it's fed and clean and looked after. It's not that, we get rid of the family and move on with Krishna, Isn't it? No, that is our service. That's what we asked for. We said, let us deliver some soul. Let us help them find Krishna. So you have to. That is your worship. That's your puja. At the same time, Prabhupada gave information that we should think like a householder, like a married woman. She works very nicely in the house, so the husband won't suspect that she keeps a paramour. She may have a lover. But she's still she's a married woman, but she serves in the house so nicely, cleaning and cooking and taking care of all his needs, so he won't suspect that she's got a lover. And Prabhupada said, who is that lover? Krishna. We all have a lover. Even though we may be married and have children, the lover is Krishna. But we carry out our duties in this world. We carry out our duties even more perfectly. But inside we're cultivating. So inside you may have a takugara, a house for Krishna. You may be cooking for Krishna and offering your foodstuffs to Krishna. Also important, not just the baby, but cultivating the lava, but at the same time the service we get in this dharmic world that Krishna arranges for us, then we have to carry that out properly. Hare Krishna.
Just some other thoughts on that subject is that if we understand that everything belongs to Krishna, including us, then the illusion can't touch us. So if we see our children belong to Krishna, our husband, our wife, our house, our car, because ultimately that's true. Everything belongs to Krishna. So when we actually understand that, then we can't so easily fall into illusion because we just want to offer it back to whom it belongs. But as soon as we start thinking in terms of I, me and mine, that's when we get into trouble. So, it's a simple adjustment of the consciousness. Not so easy because of our conditioning, but if we can meditate like that constantly, then the illusion goes and everything is connected to Krishna.
Yeah.
And, our children, like every person we meet, Krishna's in the heart of every living entity, right? So we have to start seeing through the eyes of scripture, not through the eyes of emotion and sentiment and lust and desire and all these things that have been described. And when we do, then we can operate very nicely. And especially in Grihastha life, because it's actually a very safe place to exist. If we're doing it nicely, our children are devotees, our husband, our wife, and everyone we meet, we're just wanting to give them Krishna. It's actually quite a safe place to be, and also you maintain a certain degree of humility because there's not any great kind of, prestige so attached to it. Whereas in sannyas life, for example, actually a lot more difficult because they're being worshipped, they're being adulated, they're not always surrounded by those safety nets, and so sometimes actually even more difficult. So, we should actually appreciate the treasure of household life, and understand how to operate within that ashram because it's part of Daivi Varnashram, and actually make the most of the opportunity, not think of it as some kind of curse or something less, and I can't wait to get out of here so I can really get on with the real business. No, we take that situation that we find ourselves in, and we find Krishna in every opportunity, then it becomes the most enlivening service. Yeah. It's not horrible, It's actually ecstatic, and there's nothing sweeter than seeing a husband and wife working together with their children, serving the Lord. It's such a sweet thing. Deity in every household. Then the family's always thinking, how can we serve the Lord? How can we serve the Lord? That's the duty of the parent. So when you're teaching your children that, then you're also learning that yourself. You have to set the example.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like we shouldn't think of Grihastha life as something less. Actually in Kali Yuga it's such a blessing because you're in a position to be able to share with so many more people.
Yes, wonderful. It's really nice to hear that. And I appreciate that. And most of us can actually experience that. But then there's also a point at the right time and place and circumstances when we have to be able to become detached from that. Not when you're in it, but later on, just like we see the significance of when Vyasadeva came before the assembled Vaishnavas and he was a Grihastha. The females, they covered their body, and when Sukadev Goswami came, they just saw his innocence and so they saw that this was the most qualified person to speak Bhagavatam. And so what that shows is it's important when you're in that ashram to actually carry out those duties properly. But at the same time, we all as Grihasthas have to have a goal that at some particular point in time, those living entities that we were with, even though they may be devotees and you might even have an ongoing relationship with them, at some particular time you're going to be forced apart from them. So to cultivate detachment at the same time is also necessary, isn't it? Would you agree? Somehow to cultivate detachment without being falsely renounced.
Try to be there even from the beginning, because that's what I'm saying. If we understand that everything belongs to Krishna, then there naturally is a degree of detachment there because it's not yours. You've been given the service of taking care of it. So just from my understanding, what Prabhupada says in Chaitanya Charitamrita, he's saying sometimes, when a husband and wife actually serving Krishna nicely together, they can continue that service eternally up to the Vaikuntha planet. So he's obviously acknowledging the value, right? But for some people, in order to actually detach from that situation, they may need to take themselves away from it, and then the process of sannyasa is described there also, right? Bahudara, Pujichak, like that. Gradually, first of all, they live in separate homes, and then separate villages like that, and then they go off, right? And they take the Rajakacharya and travel around the world. So that also itself is a stage. It's not that it's just done, cut, okay, I've had enough now, I'm 60, I'm out of here, see you later. That's dangerous mentality because, bhakti yoga is all about relationships. And so we don't want to just sever these things because it's time. We actually, part of our service to our family is making sure that we take such good care of everything that they're so absorbed in love of God by the time they hardly even notice that we've gone.
It's a big service, isn't it? Yeah. Family life, my God. You don't realise what it's about until you're in there, isn't it? Those that are looking into family life, they're thinking, and they don't have it, we're looking for some sort of union with somebody in this world. They think, I would like to get into that. And quite often those that are in there and looking out at the person who's not in there think, I'd like to get out. One thing I like to get in, one thing I like to get out. But actually Krishna's giving us the lessons we learn. For us, we may not be able to get in. We may not be able to find the right person. How many people suffer with that one? Most of us. It doesn't take long for the wife, the woman, the man she marries to realize, he's not Krishna. In the beginning, she thinks he's Krishna, but after some time, how long does it take? A few months or maybe a couple of years, then she realizes, I thought he was Krishna. Isn't it? So some of us, we learn, we get. I said to Mother Karunika the other day something about, the difficulties of trying to find the right mate in this life. Most of our life is spent, all of us, most of our life, unless you're cultured and coming from an Indian family, not many of much culture there also in India today, then most of us, we're getting what we deserve. We're getting what we deserve. This is the reality, But at the same time, that gets transformed, Very few of us find, only Shiva and Parvati have some very high percentage in astrology where they have compatibility. But generally, we find ourselves in a situation where we're getting good and bad, but what we're getting is, we're learning from that. Like a sculpture, he takes away the negative. His whole life is spent in taking away the negative. Michelangelo, he got left with some pieces, but his whole work, all his blood, sweat and tears, wasn't taking away the negative part, was not wanted. So Grihastha life, it works at us like that. Not only Grihastha life, if you take responsibility for Krishna, that's a similar thing. If you want to extend beyond your immediate family and take on a greater family, isn't it? Then all the things that are very difficult in this life, they're hacking the blocks off, hacking the unwanted material, and at the end of our life we should be left with something like some beautiful piece we can offer to Krishna.
I was thinking actually Grihastha life is like breaking the illusion of sense enjoyment. Because it's one thing you think that you really love that person, but really, like you start with two, and then comes the whole baggage when you go into the family life. Like you see a little child, you go, wow, this is such a beautiful baby. And then before you know there's disease, there's this illness, that illness, sleepless nights. So it's like never that enjoyment where, people who are outside of the Grihastha life don't know how it's so amazing. but actually it is like constant anxiety. Unless you put Krishna in the center, and even then, it's like sometimes you become despondent, thinking there is no God when you're really suffering, especially when the child is suffering. So, yeah, guys, you always think the grass is green on the other side, but it's not.
All right, very nice points. Of course, we seem to have gone into the Grihastha, and it's important, but we've gone there. But the main points of the Bhagavatam are Bhakti Yoga is the only thing which will give us, this verse is speaking that Bhakti Yoga is the only thing which will give us full satisfaction, isn't it? If you want full satisfaction, that's why the Bhagavatam goes right up to the stage of discussing the most intimate leelas that go on in this world. It's discussing them in the spiritual world so we can get a taste. We can't become free of lust, like just put it underneath the carpet. It's there. The original lust is there. The original lust is prem. The only difference between karma and prem is the subject. The only difference is the same energy. You just change what is the subject or the object of that. What is the object? In karma, it's another living entity of this world, another jiva. But in the same energy, you just transform for Krishna. That's prem. Same energy. So if you haven't transformed it, and even Lob, Kamsa was delivered because of his, what was the reason? Was it he was always thinking of Krishna? Fear. He actually attained Krishna through fear. Gopis attained Krishna through calm, lust. Of course, that pastime also, there's a deep subject matter. I'm not qualified to go there, but it appears like lust. To attract the living entities of this world, Krishna performed those pastimes, so it appears like lust, so that those of us lusty will get attracted to Ras Lila. We get attracted. But actually when you enter in to the secret, the secret of that energy is no lust at all, nothing. You can't enter with lust, not possible. It appears like lust, and the other way around in this world, it appears like prem. When you first get together with your partner, this appears like prem. But when you uncover it, it's lust. But in the spiritual world, Krishna reenacts the pastimes of most intimate Leela here. It appears like lust, but you enter in its prem. Shri Krishna Bhagavan ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. I'd like to, I probably won't have a chance to talk to you all individually, I'm very happy to be in your association. I'm very happy to have my Vatna Pradashana Guru here, Lalnath Prabhu, who first brought me to Krishna consciousness. I feel very honored, and to speak in front of him is quite a, I don't know, he's a some realization, more realization is there. So please take his association, also many senior Vaishnavas, Janavamar and Gitanjali, Prananath, Anurag, Pandarani. Take advantage of the Vaishnavas, because in a few days' time we spread out and go back into our suburbs, isn't it? So, Jagannath Family Festival, yeah. I'll make a quick announcement today. Also, we have